Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. How's everyone's Sunday? I hope that everyone is having a great and wonderful has had a great and wonderful day. Um, man, glad to be back. Glad to be back. To just try to share real life solutions with you guys, real life people. Because as we know, we have a lot of real life issues, and if you don't if you don't deal with those issues, they'll forever be a hindrance and a burden that weighs heavily around your neck. And that's just really not good for life. It's not good for anything about life, so let's just be open and honest about what it is we feel, how we feel, and then and only then can we have a true conversation about life. Um, Joining us tonight in her absence, she'll be right back. Oh, there she is, our beautiful, wonderful, anointed co-host. Hey, Sissy Pooh.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are
Also,
you this evening?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Our title sponsor for tonight, AVD Law. Welcome. What's up, bro?
What's going on? You doing all right?
Oh man, just a fat boy. Just a fat boy. I tell you this right now, though. I tell you this right now. What I wouldn't give for some white on white cake squares. that is just
That's Randall.
hey, that's my favorite, man. I love white on white cakes. Hey, for all y'all that's gonna be listening, because we know y'all don't watch during the show, but we love our little 53 viewers that view us every single week. Um, and we're grateful for you guys. Um, we got some more people coming later. Don't worry about it. We're just gonna add them as they come this week. People be having lives, yeah. I'm the only person in America that doesn't have a life. Tonight we're gonna continue our conversation on the 5 stages of grief. And as we learned last week, grief does not come in a particular order. There's no particular order for grief. Also, as we learned last week, it's okay to question God. How you get the answers you need unless you ask God the questions. And we were told that doggone lie our whole life, don't question God. I said it, I meant it. Quiet sounds so good sometimes, don't it?
Well, I paused because I thought you were going to actually give out the 5 stages, but you just passed on to the next heavy question. And I was like, doof, felt like you hit me in my chest.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you were going to give out the 5 stages before you.
Time out. I forgot to do something. Hey, you guys, you see this beautiful, wonderful pullover, man? I want to shout out the St. John Red Youth Football Organization out of La Place, Louisiana, for this beautiful windbreaker. Absolutely phenomenal. Um, hey, I'll rock y'all gear too, man. Nothing like free clothing. Nothing like free clothing. I'm a sports junkie, so I wear all athletic gear. I'm not your typical media guy who has on the slacks and all that, but I got it. If I need it, I got it in my back pocket. Okay, back to you, sis. Sorry.
No worry. I'm sorry. I got a frog in my throat for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe because I've been talking all day. But you were given a recap on our part 1 of this particular topic, the 5 stages of grief. And when you mentioned that there wasn't a particular order for the 5 stages of grief, and before we talk more about them tonight. I thought you were just going to mention them, which,
I can do that right now then.
okay.
The 5 stages of grief. And again, I'm putting a number on it. And again, let me do this real quick, you guys. Y'all know I like to be appropriately correct. Put our disclaimer up. Okay, that's long enough.
Wonderful.
So again, grief has no particular order. Grief has no particular order. Got it? Get it good. And I'm only putting a number by it because that's how our people that we're getting our news and notes from, that's how they have it. Thank you again, masterclass.com. Really educated men and women who got together to put all this good information together for us. You can email, you can go to masterclass.com, go to the bottom and subscribe, or send them your email address and they'll send you back samples of their favorite shows. All right? Appreciate you, Masterclass. And so number 1 in the 5 stages of grief are, number 1 is denial. 2 is anger. 3 is bargaining. 4, depression. And the 5th one is acceptance. And you know, I'm not really that smart. I'm smart enough to get really smart people on my panel. Looks like that last one I said, though, that, you know, we know the other ones are painful. Like, we know that denial is painful. We know that anger is painful. We know that bargaining is painful. We know that depression is super painful. But that last one, that 5th one I mentioned, acceptance, that one may be the one that does you in, because it's not good to accept depression. It's not good to accept being angry. Remember, I told you guys last week that I was angry for a very long time. And the whole time that I was angry, until I learned to say, well, Hobart, you're angry, and why are you angry? I was just doing a lot of dumb stuff and always being in or getting into trouble. I ain't the only one that got that story. Yeah, I use bad, improper English. I ain't a word. Or is it? Maybe 2 words. Your thoughts on acceptance. Go ahead. You were talking.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
No, I think acceptance is probably the point where you have the breakthrough, where all these things have happened to you and you have now have had your breakthrough, and you've dealt with all the pain and the anguish, and now you have been delivered through all of the pain and trauma, and have accepted the outcome, and you now have now had the ability to move past all of the past trauma. You may not have forgotten about it, but you now are in a place where you've been able to deal with it and handle it in a way to where you can live your life without being in that place, that dark place where you are unable to function.
Okay. And see, this shows you right here that you can have different responses to a situation and neither one be wrong. Because to me, accepting grief means that I've lost, that I may be on the verge of jumping off a small ledge. Jumping off a great ledge means death. Never would do that. But I would definitely jump off a small ledge where I could land on my feet to reassert and reaffirm my footing. What's your point on acceptance, Sissy Poop?
Well, according to the 5 stages of grief. Acceptance is when you come to experience the grief and you realize that it's never it may not never completely close because it's a wound. It's a wound that has happened, right?
Right.
And so you're gonna always miss this person, miss your loved one, or whatever. Not only that, or a circumstance or a situation, right? Because we always think of grief in terms of a person. It
Mhm.
may be a way of being, it may be a way of life, it may be a relationship, it may be a job, it may be a lifestyle. But whatever it is that you lost in some particular way, um, you're now in a phase of your life where you return to some sense of wellness,
Mhm.
some sense of wellness. And I don't say normalcy because what is normal, right?
Great question.
Works for me, what doesn't work for you? Because I may like bananas and raisins, but that isn't normal for you. So whatever works for me. So whatever sense of wellness is for me, um, that I've learned to cherish what memories help me to make it through. And through could mean the next day,
Mhm.
the next block of time, the next hour, the next minute, or the next breath to move forward in my life in a positive manner. And I tend to connect all of those words together because if you don't have one part of those, then the acceptance really isn't there in terms of how I understand acceptance to be. Because if you are cherishing, longing, pining, holding on to the memories, and isn't allowing you to move forward in a positive light, then you are still somewhere in one of the previous stages that we talked about.
Right.
And you are placating or you are um, masking it with something else. Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
No,
I
no,
knew he
no.
was going to do it, Alan. I knew he was going to do it.
Say that big word again. Say that college word again.
You are covering it up with something else, substituting it with something else.
No,
I
I like
knew he was
I
going to
like
do it.
when you say those big college words.
You know what? It's just a word.
Right.
It's just a word.
Just say it for me one more time.
Placating.
I now explain to the world what that means, and then
Substituting,
go right back.
substituting, covering up, masking. Um, you are massaging, licking your wound um, in a space or a place for or for if and but, in not allowing the positivity to come forth. So your sense of wellness is missing.
Right. All right, go back now. I'm sorry.
That was acceptance.
We always gotta educate people when, like, if I get stumped on a word, I'm gonna ask, and then I like for you guys to just explain the college word.
But you said something earlier about how acceptance seems to be the only one that's positive. Um, when you look at the other four stages, I tend to be a glass half full girl. So when you look at denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, you say, well, sis, you can't pay me any type of money to believe that you can find anything positive out of any of those, right? And I tend to beg the differ. I tend to beg the differ pick anger for one. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I tend to think that if we tend to suppress anger long enough, it's going to eat you up. But if you express your anger in a way that it allows you to um, realize and actualize the emotional and physical symptoms that take a hold of you, that doesn't necessarily have you lashing out at others, but using them in a way that you can begin to understand why is it that you're angry and what are the underlying symptoms about the grief that has you angry. Because maybe that if and I'm going to use this as an example, say for instance, and I'm going to use me, say for instance, my mom passed, and she has passed. My mom passed and I'm angry about her death, but I'm angry she died, right? But maybe my anger is not so much about the death as unresolved issues or unanswered questions. So maybe my working through the anger allows me to get to that resolute. And now I'm using coping skills of journaling, asking the questions, getting that getting that out, as opposed to it on a loop inside of my head, in my heart, through my body, taking over my emotions and having me in a hyperdrive where I am unable to get to that point of wellness and positively moving forward. So, are they all bad? That was just one, for instance, an example.
Yeah,
Well, it's all in how we look at things.
and what I was gonna say is that number two is not necessary. I wouldn't necessarily label number two as anger. I would label number two as, like you said, more emotional than anger, because grief sometimes evokes different emotions than anger. It could be sadness, it could be confusion, it could be um, hurt, hurtful emotions, and not necessarily anger. I mean, you can lose somebody and expect to lose them, but not be angry about it. But you can be confused about it or sad about it, and have questions as to why. For instance, why God allowed that to happen to such a beautiful person, but not necessarily angry that you know uh, that you lost that person. So I think um, just labeling it as anger may be a little bit narrow in scope, and it could be more broadly termed as emotion, um, and not necessarily negative in the way that we look at it. But I agree with you. I think all four or five of those stages can be looked at in a positive way. Three, we look at bargaining. We do that all the time. God, why him? Just take me instead. We do that often when we're dealing with grief. Depression is a moment where we're reflective on the certain things when we're dealing with grief. We tend to look at depression as a negative, but a lot of times it's a moment of reflection and not necessarily um, something that we should label as a negative. And denial is just the disbelief that this is occurring, you're going through it. um, but again, just to answer your question, Hobart, as far as whether or not all these stages are negative, I don't necessarily agree.
And
Well,
that's
oh,
that's the vantage point of having different viewpoints. Yes, ma'am.
you know, well, in thinking about these stages. So, I'm sorry, I will not be hacking. I will excuse myself and get some water. I've been talking, I've been preaching and teaching all day. So, so understanding that these 5 stages of grief came from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross' Death and Dying book, right? So these were prescribed, and this is what has been used in the mental health world. So this is our sort of go-to, right? So this is where these 5 stages of grief come from, and that's the terminology has been used. So they've been, they can be twisted and turned, and so if somebody goes, oh no, that's wrong, you can't substitute that word for that, but and I guess it all depends on who you're talking to and how it is that it makes sense. It's like make that make sense.
Right.
As some of my friends say, see, I hang out with y'all old folks on Sundays. I like to hang out with the younger people earlier, during the week. But make that make sense. It has to make sense in a way that keeps you here. So when you talk about depression, I'm so happy that we are conscious enough to have scrolling on the bottom of our screen the suicide helpline, because sadness, despair, darkness, disappointment, discouragement, grief, death, and dying can take someone living out. That is an honest statement. It can cause someone to want to do harm to themselves and to others. That's a period. That's not a comma. That is sometimes an exclamation point. When the noise gets too loud in our own heads and our own hearts and our own bodies and our own spirits, someone can feel the need to take themselves out. It does not mean that they do not have faith. It does not mean they do not have an anchor that holds. It means that the noise has either gotten too loud or it's gone completely out. And I say that from a real place of experience with journeying with others that I know that are believers. But I have journeyed with people who have lost their parents, who have lost their children, who have lost recently. And when the light goes out, there has to be someone there to help shining the light for them, to help them see in these stages of grief that there's hope. And so we have the suicide helpline. We have experienced professionals that can help them with that. We have prayer warriors. We have a conglomeration and a compilation, a combination of things and facets that can be put to use professionally, privately, prayerfully, that will come together in the knowledge of shows like this and others and institutions that can educate and provide knowledge along with wisdom garnered that will teach and just have open dialogue about real life conversations. And people give testimonials about, I didn't know how, because sometimes when someone loses someone that close, you don't know what to do. You grasp for straws, you grasp for air, you grasp for breath, you grasp for everything. And if there's nothing there to grasp upon, you don't know what to do.
Exactly. Man, you guys prefaced into the next part of grief exceptionally well, and I'm grateful that you did, because that always makes my part of the show a lot easier. And that next part is, how do we cope with grief?
Okay, Matt, grab some water, please. While Alan answers that question. All you, Alan, all you.
Again, grief is, as it says, grief is painful and unpredictable. And so I once heard a story. I want to share this story with you guys really quick. And you guys have to forgive the reference. It's just how I heard the story. So a couple of guys were in a bar. Guy was drinking pretty heavy and pretty fast. And the guy that was sitting next to him said, man, what's wrong with you that you're drinking that fast? You're taking those shots back. The guy said, man, don't worry about it. I just got a lot of problems that I'm trying to figure out how to deal with. He said, oh, man, come on, it can't be that bad. Said, just can't be that bad that has you drinking that many shots that fast. The guy says, man, come on, just leave it alone. You don't want to know what all I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy says, man, it can't be that bad. He said, I don't know what it is, but let me help you get through it. So the man that's doing all the drinking says, okay, since you want to invade my privacy. And so he starts rattling off a laundry list of problems that he had. The man gets up and says, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute. Couple of minutes pass by. Couple more minutes pass by. Even a couple of more minutes pass by. The guy says, man, let me go and check on my new buddy and make sure he's okay. He goes in the bathroom and the man was laying on the floor dead because he couldn't handle someone else's problems. How do we help others cope with grief?
So you asked
Easy.
so you asked two questions. The first one is how do we deal with grief, and now with your story, you asked how do we help others deal with grief. How do I deal with grief? Well, I guess it depends on what I'm dealing with. I lost my sister to acute asthma related death back in 2010, and I don't know if I really dealt with that her death because I was more concerned with my parents and trying to make sure that they were uh, in a good place and dealing with all of that. So I just basically kept myself busy and kind of push forward and push through. So I think people deal with grief in various ways. Just looking at the 5 stages of dealing with grief, I think I went through all of those stages in various ways. But I don't think I, fully grieve for my sister, simply because of, trying to be there for other people. And I think sometimes, some people, push grief aside or push it down simply because they're trying to be strong for other people. How do I handle or help others with grief? I guess in the same manner, just trying to be strong for them and trying to lift them up and hold them up, and be strong for them. Kind of like the man in your story, but taking on their burdens and being stronger for them. Um, being the older brother in my family or being the older sibling in the family, that's always been kind of the responsibility that I've carried for myself. Um, so in that scenario, in that situation, dealing with my sister, that's kind of how I dealt with my own grief and how I um, assisted my mother and father and my younger siblings in dealing with their grief involving my sister.
Right. Sissy Pooh?
Well, personally, how do I cope with grief? I cope with grief from a faith-based perspective. So with that said, I know where my help comes from. So I know who has me. Does that make it hurt any less? In none of the circumstances, I would say no. Or any of the circumstances, I would say no. But I do know that death is inevitable because man born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. So I know that it does come to pass. But it helps me in my ability to get through. So I give myself the grace, the time to get through it. I have been guilty of pushing myself too fast. And Alan used a word that I have now stricken from my vocabulary. And that was the word strong. Because my name is not Jesus Christ. So I don't have to be strong for anyone anymore. Because he bore that price for me. So all I have to do is take it to him. And I've learned or am learning. Let me be completely transparent. I am learning how to take care of myself. So when it says rest, I rest. When it says eat, I eat. When it says
Stop. Too far.
You can't ask me a question and tell me how to answer my question.
But you're going into a later subject.
So wait a minute. When we get to the later subject, then I can answer the later subject. You can't tell me how to answer my question about me. How do I cope with grief? Because of the simple fact that formally in taking care of myself when it comes in regard to grief, I negated all of that. I put on my Wonder Woman cape and I spun around. Okay. Now, decades later, I realized when I put on my Wonder Woman cape and I spin around, the only thing I get is dizzy. Hello. So I leave her to do her tricks on the cartoon pages. So, and then I realized the last part of that and how I cope with grief is that I get the support that I need, be it professionally, privately, friend girls, laughter, love, and liberty. Liberty being the freedom to just be who I want to be, how I want to be, when I want to be. But it starts with that. So from a faith perspective, praise my way through. I know the relationship of my loved one. If the loss is from a loved one, if the loss is from a situational thingy, then I realized that it had not, then it wasn't for my good. And if it was something that I lost that was of my doing, then I realized it was a choice that I made. I take my spanking and I keep it moving. Okay. Now, how do I help others cope? Well, that's sort of a little more complex in that I'm bivocational. Okay. Is that one of them words or you got that one, Hobart?
No, go ahead and give the people the definition of bivocational.
Oh, goodness. So I'm both clergy and a mental health professional. So in both of those vocations, I journey with persons that experience grief on so many layers and so many topics and so many subjects, from everything from the loss of a loved one to the loss of a marriage, from the loss of children in terms of death, but a loss of children in terms of leaving home and never coming back, a loss to the streets, a loss to their expectations, a loss of employment, a loss of finances, a loss of homes, a loss of lifestyle, um, a loss of understanding, a loss of I just had one. Even just a loss of zip codes, could be grief and cause a person to have grief and unhealthy relationships, unhealthy decisions is grief for some persons. And so in both of my vocations, journey with persons is important to have an artillery skills or weapons, if you will, weaponry for them, to tried and tested ones. And that is something that I've seen work, witness, and experience, that I share with them, that I've known work and have encouraged them to use, and along with talk therapy. So there you go.
Hey, really, really great responses from both of you guys on both questions. How do you cope with grief, as well as how do you help others cope? We know that grief has been and can be again be a deadly situation. Grief has taken so many lives. And when I say grief has taken so many lives, that doesn't mean that that person died. It just means that he may have or she may have lost the will to live and fight for themselves. No one is above grief. It just can't be. I want you guys to ponder this as our two panelists on tonight talk about it. In a grief stricken situation, how much empathy are you willing to show? You have to be, again, we all go through something. We all go through something. Are you willing to give the same empathy that you expect to receive, Alan?
Am I willing to show the same empathy that I'm expected to receive? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I'm always willing to be empathetic, if not empathetic, sympathetic towards someone. I may not always understand exactly what they're going through, but I'm always sympathetic towards what they're going through, and be respectful, um, to their needs and to their situation. So, of course, I would extend, all sympathies and be empathetic towards them, to whatever degree I can be.
Awesome. Sister Pooh?
I like Alan. I like Alan. I'm going to repeat that. Am I willing to extend the same empathy that I expect to receive?
Yes.
Absolutely. The caveat is, do I expect it to receive it or do I give it to expect it? No.
Yeah, you don't give it to expect in return.
Y'all know I'm a sports guy, so I got to
You
get
know
it.
what? Why don't you?
I
Why
got to
don't
get
you?
the time out in.
No. Why don't you do this? If I may, as the co-host, let me push my co-host button and put my co-host hat on. Why don't you do this? Why don't you stop thinking about what you got thoughts for down the road and just
No, that has nothing to do with that.
what?
That had nothing to do with that, and you made me forget my question.
Good.
Sometimes you, in your responses, you guys say really good stuff. And in that instant, in that very instant, because I think too much,
Right.
another
That's
question.
what I thought. Just be the fluidity. Then just ask it and
No,
stop doing this stuff.
I like doing that. I'm a sports guy.
Stop doing
That's
it.
better than just interrupting him.
That breaks the flow of the show. Just go with the
I
fluidity.
don't like interrupting people, but at that moment, it feels right. I would never go in the pulpit and call a timeout. I promise you I wouldn't. If we were in the court of law and I was arguing a case, I would never call a timeout. But I'm a sports guy talking about life.
Yeah, we would call that an objection. Time out, Judge. That's called an objection. But I mean, to answer your question, Hope, I mean, I'm thinking about it now, like, and that's why I asked you. That's why I asked for clarity on it, because like some situations, like I can't be empathetic because I can't understand. Like if you tell me I'm grieving because my pet goldfish died, I can't be empathetic about that because I couldn't grieve over a lost goldfish, but I'd be sympathetic towards your grief because I understand loss. Um,
Okay, Alan. Okay, we got to go there. We got to get there. You've been on shows when we've been all over the place, right? So I don't want to be offensive because I could only be me, right? You may not be empathetic to the loss of a goldfish, right?
right,
But you're empathetic to the loss of another sojourner in this thing called life.
right,
Because you hurt, I hurt because I care about you.
right,
So it doesn't matter if it's a goldfish. So the same way that I'm sitting here, and if I brought my hand up right now and I hit it on the desk, you're not over here in Chicago and hurt your hand, but you'd be like, man, that hurt.
yeah.
So it's the same as the goldfish.
I gotta do it again. I know I'm finna get fussed at, but I gotta do it again. I agree with you, Alan. I can't grieve for a goldfish, man. I can't grieve for a dog. I can't grieve. And it's not that I don't love every object that God
But it's not
brought
but
into
it's not, but what I'm saying is it's not so much about the goldfish, the dog, even though I lost the dog and I mourned, right? It's not so much about the goldfish or the dog as it is about your love for me.
No. It's the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy
I
is
understand empathy. I'm clear. I'm
okay.
clear.
Look,
I hope I'm clear, or they're gonna come.
I
Look,
didn't mean to
Alan,
offend.
I'm like you. If I'm not clear, they might come get this piece of paper. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I didn't mean to offend, but I
No, you didn't offend, darling. I'm just we good. But what I'm saying is,
I got offended. Just playing, just playing.
but what I'm saying is being empathetic to the loss. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's knowing that It's knowing that somewhere, someone is without shelter. And when you say your prayers, you're going to pray for them. You don't need a name. You don't need a face. You don't need a location. But you're going to lift them up. That's not sympathetic. That's empathetic. So somewhere in your psyche, in your work, in your something's going to move in you. You don't realize it, but something's going to move in you at some point, and you're going to see it manifested, and you're going to feel it, and you're going to be like, man, that was towards that end, towards that prayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's empathy. What?
I'm not gonna even do it.
What? Come on.
Not gonna even do it.
No, go. You already raised your hand.
No, I wasn't gonna time out you again. Then I was gonna be silly and sarcastic.
No, come on. We here for all that. We here for all that.
I sometimes, and what was that big word you used that means
Placated.
I do sometimes platicate, because this is a real serious issue, and I'm dealing with this exact same thing as we speak now. Alan said it earlier. You know, everybody knows my dad died almost 2 months ago, and I couldn't grieve because I had to be strong for others.
What is strong?
You know, just be the shoulder that people needed to lean on, because I knew that people hadn't done their part, and that they were going to be the ones in the funeral trying to crawl into the casket.
So even if they were, why couldn't you be crying and pulling them out at the same time? You didn't want to be. You didn't want to be.
I didn't have a reason to cry though. Even though it hurt, I did my part as a child.
So then take off that phrase. Take off that phrase. I had to be strong. No, having to be strong is denying what you really want to do or feel compelled to do in your grief.
I was good. Like for me.
No.
As a child, I was good because
Alan, do you hear me? I'm gonna talk to you because he ain't hearing me. He I'm gonna talk to you because he ain't listening. Because you made the statement earlier, right? That being strong, and I understood what that meant. The way I understood it from you was when you used the term being strong was you were ensuring that your parents were in a space and a place that as they were funeralizing their daughter, their child, who should not be funeralized before them, were in a space and a place that their head, their heart, their bodies, their mind, their souls, and their spirits could handle this. And that you were like, okay, check. That's what strong symbolized to you at that moment. That's what I understood.
Correct. And my younger siblings as well.
Right.
Correct.
In your role as the eldest sibling, child, son, right?
Correct.
Now, what I hear Hobart saying in terms of being strong is people that had not, that felt, okay, people that had not, that could have done possibly more while his father was still alive, didn't do the more. So there may have been some shame, regret, or something there. And he felt like, well, let me help them possibly save face, keep them from doing whatever, and I'm just gonna hold them up. That's what I'm understanding. Am I wrong, Herbert? Okay.
Right.
There's a difference. See the disconnect between the two? Or am I the only one seeing this?
Again, so in the process of words, we know words have a wide range and wide variety of meaning and definition and term analogy. But the process of it, I think, is the same for everyone. Again, Did I cry when my dad died? Yes. But I don't know if I cried because I was hurt or because in that moment, like my dad died in my arms. Like, and I internalized that when I walked out of the room where he was. And that's not a
You compartmentalized it. So once that process was over, you put that in a box, and then you moved on to the preparation, and you put that in a little box. Am I understanding that whole?
yeah.
Right, not
that,
internalized, compartment.
and that's what men do. We put things in little boxes, and we deal with it. We put it in a box. We put it to the side. Then we got to deal with this issue over here. We deal with it. We put it in a box. We put it to the side, and that's how we tend to move forward and deal with life.
And as well, you know, sometimes, especially in death grief or grief because of a death of a loved one, you know, we just know that who people are. And so if everybody's crying, who's gonna be the voice of reason? Who's gonna be the, again, and I know you don't like this word, but there always has to be someone that's strong.
Well, don't get me wrong. No. Hear me well. I didn't say I didn't like the word. I
You say
didn't say I didn't like the
out of your vocabulary.
No, I did not say that. I said I wanted to understand it and what it meant. I understood it from the context he was using it. I said, so why do you have to feel the need to be that if that's not what you want to be? I'm from there. And it's not just a man thing, Alan, because women, especially in our culture, and it's in other cultures as well. I can only speak from my own experience when it comes to grief. I can relate with that. I mean, we're being transparent. This is what I was trying to stop you with that T earlier, with terms of going with the flow with this conversation.
No, I was more referring to the compartmentalizing our lives, just putting things in little boxes and putting them away. I wasn't necessarily referring to grieving at that point.
No, you're right. But here, and you can't deal with it right now because this need handling and this. Right, that's what I was talking about. And I was talking about in terms of, you know, being former military, being the one that has to be the go-to, be the responsible one, has to be the one, you know, that's how I was reared, right? I was reared that way because I had to be the one to take care of stuff, get stuff done, get it done. So when both of my parents passed, right? My father passed 3 years before my mom. And so when they passed, my dad first, you know, I had to be there for my mom, right? Even though I had 3 older siblings, I'm the youngest and only girl, but I was the responsible one. Everyone has a title, right? And so I had to compartmentalize whatever feelings I had about, wait, really? This what we doing? Okay. I can't even deal with that now. I gotta make sure that whatever's necessary to be taken care of is being taken care of. This is before the bivocational thingy, was it? Yeah, before the bivocational thingy. But the military was there. It was the can do. You got to get it done. Need to be done. Need to make sure mom is okay. That she's doing great. She don't have to worry about a thing. Everything's taken care of. All I need to do is just be. Whatever you want to be, just be. Done. I didn't cry for 3 years. I cried, don't get me wrong, but I didn't grieve my father for 3 years.
I definitely
One
understand.
day, one day I was driving 04 o'clock, 0430 as I call it, 04 early as I call it, driving on my way to military duty. I had to pull over to the side of the road. Waterworks just came
I
out of
understand.
nowhere.
I hope that don't happen to me.
It probably will.
I hope not. I tell you this though, and I really just understood what you said and how you felt at that moment when you said you were the youngest and you didn't want to do this. Like I understood that because I'm the youngest, and I didn't want to be responsible. I just wanted to show up and do whatever I needed to do on the program and give me a couple of laughs from the memories that I have of my dad, good, bad, or indifferent, and go home.
I wanted to be baby girl, but I had to write the program, write for this, do this, do that. But this is not a complaint. This is simply an acknowledgement of what transpired. Then you fast forward 3 years later, after taking care of mom for 3 years, and not that my brothers did not help in that, because they did. But to me, by this time, I'm deaf. I'm deaf because all I'm hearing is I'm filled to the gills in grief because I hadn't grieved in 3 years. So not until I actually grieved did she go. And I'm like, wait a minute, you mean I missed this 3 years being here with her, filled with grief, and didn't realize she was slipping away. And she just slipped out of it was like she just slipped out of my hands. And I was like, what the hell happened?
I'll tell you this too, Sister Pooh and Alan. This year is going to be 30 years ago when our mom passed, 2 days before Christmas. And I really was irresponsible then. Like I was drinking every day and just not being a good person at all. And my sister handled everything, and not once, and I'm going to have to apologize to her tonight, because not once did I ask her, was she okay? Not once did I ask her if she needed help or any of that, because ever since we was little, in reference to me and her, she just always made stuff happen for us. Like, mama stopped buying me school clothes. Guess who got a summer job only to buy me school clothes? My sister. Only to make sure I had a nice pair of shoes on my feet when I went to school. Like, she real life took over, and I, when my mama stopped doing for me, I really deserved it. I was a horrible child.
Okay, but not to stop your grieving process right now, and not to give you a TV you're gonna give me. But that this ain't that.
It is. It's all of that to me, because again, at the end of the day, I've never stopped grieving. I grieved for my mother for 30 years. Her birthday was Friday. The day we celebrated her birthday was this past Friday, November 11th. Like, that was hard. And I grieved the loss of my mother for 30 years. I probably haven't, like, when my dad died, okay, my dad died. He was just gone. I didn't feel some type of way about the way my dad died versus the way I still feel some type of way about my mom dying.
You were a teenager then.
Did I was an adult. I had just turned 21.
But you were in a different headspace, Hilbert. Your life was in a different space.
But at the same point, again, this is me being honest and transparent. I love my mom way more than I did my dad. Period.
A lot of boys do.
And so when it's all said and done, again, I think that's another reason why that I've kind of handled my dad's death way differently than I couldn't handle my mom's death. It's because he was just my dad. And again, as I said last week, I still had a lot of unresolved, unanswered questions that I was trying to deal with. And again, if when we look in this mirror and see the reflection that's called our light, if we're not willing to be open, honest, and truthful about how we feel, about what we feel, about what we can do to change how we feel, then you're only digging a deeper hole for you to have to climb out of. And that doesn't mean I didn't love my dad, because from I think it was 1996 or 1997 when he first started having prostate issues. I was there for him. Every doctor's appointment, me and my sister made sure he got there. Whatever he needed, from to the point that he got not, I don't want to say sick, but he had some medical issues in 1996 or 97. I don't remember what year it was, but we were there. Me and my sister were there for everything. When he had when we found out he had cataract and he had the surgery, we got him a new TV. We got him a bigger TV. We did everything as children that we were supposed to do to try to help our dad be comfortable. And I came in line, and I know this is wrong, but I've even said out loud, and again, I know it's wrong, but I've said, man, I wish you would have, I wish I'd have had my mama for those 30 years. But I had who God wanted me to have, and I guess that was my opportunity within these last 30 years to ask him all the questions that I wanted to, have answers for. So should I really be more mad at him, or should I be more mad at me for being scared to ask him about the issues that I had?
Oh, but you know what you just did?
I don't know.
You just laid out 3 out of the 5 steps of dealing with grief. And
well, I don't know nothing about that. I'm not a professional. That's why I got you guys. I'm just good at asking questions.
And we were your listening ear. So when you ask the question, how do we help others grieve? We just listened.
Y'all got that?
Got that.
Y'all got that?
Got that.
I heard bargaining. I heard anger.
Sadness or depression.
And still sad. Still sad. And yeah, anger, plenty. It was plenty. Like, I'm not lying. Like, yeah, plenty of anger. But I'm getting better, and not because someone else wanted me to be better, but I want to be better because I don't want to be bitter forever. I don't want to be angry forever. You can't receive. I just don't believe you can receive your full inheritance of what God has for us here on earth if you're angry, if you're bitter, if you're trying to throw the same stone that someone threw at you. That's not life.
But if you understand what grace is and why grace is so amazing.
And again, though, watch this. I understand grace. I understand grace fully. But it's still that matter of us acknowledging what we feel. I don't want to be lost. How can I teach my kids what true love is? How can I teach my kids what forgiveness and understanding is, and humbling thyself, if I can't learn to do and be those things? And again, I'm not the only man and or woman on earth dealing with these symptoms.
Absolutely not.
But again, are they going to take a major step in their life and say, "Hey, I have these issues that he just said"?
I have those issues.
Can we be? You're gonna like this one. You're gonna like this one, Sister Pooh. Can we be in and reach the fulfillment of our heart's desire?
Absolutely.
That one that might can preach, Sissy Pooh.
It already has.
Oh, man.
That's the cross. That's why he got up. Because he knew you could before you knew.
Facts.
That's the blood.
Okay, bye, y'all.
Now, you know what happened, right? He started crying.
Oh,
He started crying.
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Huh?
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. So when we talk about, he said, the being empathetic and the sympathetic, we have to be able to give our visions, our listeners, something that they'll be able to hold on that's tangible, right?
Mhm.
So as we talk about, and you guys did something major when you talked about how men, and I tried to tag along and identify it, and that's very pertinent too for women as well, to be able to identify who you are and how it is that you cope with identifying who you are when it comes to knowing thyself, right? And knowing how you process stuff. I'm still going to give this back to Hobart and still say, it's grace. It's grace. And he says, oh, I understand grace. Yeah. But there's still just a little bit more there. There's still a little bit more there. It's a little bit more there. Because if you did, then you would afford yourself some more. And we may understand the concept of grace, but do we afford ourselves grace? But as it relates to grief and where we are today is affording ourselves the grace for our healing to take place. And so as we look at being at the hour mark, I'm not exactly sure if Hobart wanted to go further, if you
Yeah,
wanted
we're going further. We're going further in the grief, but I forgot to do this earlier, so you guys got to
you have
forgive
a
me.
law moment.
Well, yeah, we can do a long moment tonight if Alan has one prepared. But our medical minute that we usually do at 7:30 or 7:30 ish, 7:25, 7:30 ish. Y'all say a prayer for NPC Raven Campbell Smith. She's a little bit under the weather, and so she wasn't able to send in our medical minute for tonight. And we just want to acknowledge our resident nurse practitioner. And again, for her and for us here on Life Off the Bench, this month is about diabetes, she said. So we must remember, check your A1C regularly. Try not to eat the bad stuff. Try not to drink the bad stuff. Don't be a Mountain Dew head like me.
I was just gonna say, what's in your cup, Hobart? Oh my
Mountain,
God, you must have heard me.
Mountain Dew. Y'all know I'll be on. Y'all know I'll be on that Mountain Dew.
You tried to go off camera and go pour it in your cup, but I was like, I could hear all that sugar.
So again, take care of yourselves. If you are pre-diabetic or if you are a diabetic taking insulin, please make sure that you do the daily things that you are supposed to do so that we can have you here for a long, long life. And on that note, Alan, do you have a point of law for us?
Well, since we're dealing with on the topic of dealing with grief, the topic that I want to talk about is preparing for the inevitable and dealing with wills and preparing wills. So I'll have a topic to talk about on that.
Okay. So back to the show, and again, thank you guys, man. Thank you guys for all of your timely wisdom and insight. And for you all that don't know, Anise Adams Collier is a licensed clinical psychiatrist in the state of Illinois.
No.
I'm sorry. You got too many letters, man. I'm just trying to make it sound great.
Yeah, but I don't want also sound great and be a what do you call it? Give me the legal word.
I don't know.
Practicing without a license.
No.
You got a license.
No, but I'm not a psychiatrist. I am a.
Oh, my bad.
I don't want to be false representation.
Whatever she is, she's good at it. How
I'm a
about that?
licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Illinois.
Got just like that, what she said. So, and on that note, let's talk about displaying love in grief.
Oh, wonderful. So that was a huge brushstroke. That brushstroke was huge just now.
Was it?
What do you think, Alan?
Yeah.
I meant for it to be really huge.
That was too huge.
Okay, let me break it down then. Let me break it down a little bit for you. Alan?
That can mean showing empathy or sympathy towards someone that we've already discussed, or in other manners also.
But watch this though. That doesn't change the fact that, again, it's loss of job, loss of life, loss of friendship.
Who's showing the love? Am I showing the love and I had grief, or is someone showing me love?
Again, it's a very thin line between love and hate.
Come on, dude.
I'm just. Can you gonna answer the question, or you want me to rephrase the question, or give you another question? I can do either one. But
why don't you come up with a viable question?
That, to me, that is a viable question, because again, in everything that I've learned in life that's been great, it has to do with love. And so, be it direct or indirect, if you can give love freely without wanting anything in return, then you're probably a really good person.
I do it every day.
And probably is the asterisk for some people.
I do it every day.
So again, for me, that was a real question. But again, because we're talking about grief and we're talking about loss, and I went in depth about my feelings. You're putting love in a box. Don't put love in a box.
Put love in the box.
You just did.
I didn't put love in the box. I said, let us know from which we're coming. We don't mind. I don't think I get a problem with answering the question. We just wanted that was a broad person. You said showing love from.
But again, though, whatever came to your mind in reference to love.
No problem. Go, Alan.
So I'm still trying to understand from what perspective. So
from whatever perspective you want to speak on.
What spoke to your spirit when he said that?
That one.
So what spoke to my spirit was like when Hobart told me about when dad was sick, and ultimately when he passed away, and me being concerned about his well-being and things of that nature. That came to mind, but that's more on the empathetic, sympathetic aspect of it, just being concerned about his well-being. But again, that's kind of a broad topic.
But why? Okay, so then I'm gonna leave Hobart right there. Why was that the first thing that came to mind?
Because I was concerned about him, and I knew he spent a lot of time with his dad in Atlanta and going back and forth, and um, just it weighed on him heavily, and it came abruptly to an end, and I just worried about him.
What does that say about your relationship with Hobart?
Uh, it's pretty close.
Say more.
Say it.
You trying
Say it.
Hobart. Stop it.
That mean be quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. So over the years, I've come to love Hobart. He's, a real close friend. We probably talk every day. So like I said, when his dad got sick and he was telling me about it, I was definitely concerned for Hobart.
So what was it about? Think about maybe like 2 conversations. Just for a moment, pause. Think about 2 conversations during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And what about those conversations were that had you the most concerned, that in that moment that you found out that his dad had passed, that had you like, wow.
It wasn't necessary that he had passed, but I knew he had spent a lot of time with him, towards the end, and so knowing that he was, had gotten closer to him towards the end, and preparing all that, the services and all that stuff, making sure that everything was, programming and all that stuff was good, and what they were going to do as far as services and things of that nature. So I was just making sure that he was in a good headspace and all that during that time. But it wasn't any particular conversation that we had. I just know that he was just making sure that his dad was comfortable towards the end, and he had a real deep concern about him, and it reminded me of my own relationship with my own father, and I'm close to my dad as well.
So it was the kinship.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the kinship that you and Hobart have reminded you of the kinship that you have with your own dad.
Yeah.
So did in some way it speak to, what did it speak to you about mortality with you and your dad?
Life is short, and you definitely gotta take all opportunities to tell them that you love them while they're here.
So how did you do that for Hobart?
I don't know. How did I do that, Hobart?
Hope don't answer that.
I can't answer it.
Because I asked you not to right now. Right now.
I don't know. I don't know how I did it. I mean, I really don't know how I did it.
Okay. Hobart, how did he do it?
So I think one of the ways that he did it was just by calling me every day to say, "Hey, bro, do you need anything? Are you okay?" Like, um, whether whether a person asks you or not, or whether you ask them or not, just the thought of knowing that someone is being there for you in your corner from a place of love, understanding, friendship, brotherhood, and all those different areas and aspects, um, that makes you feel good. So again, since the day we met, we've always had a commonality, which was sports. You know, that's how our friendship began. And, you know, that's not to say that we've always agreed on everything, especially when we first met, because I'm a little boisterous, I'm loud. It takes a lot of getting used to
You
me.
said a little boisterous?
Okay, I'm a lot boisterous.
How about just boisterous?
Because that's not true.
No, boisterous is lot, period. You don't need the adjective.
I'm just saying. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I become. Because
You've been that way
again,
for a long time, Hobart.
come on, Sissy Pooh.
That's how I was introduced to you, honey.
Yeah, yeah. I think you got mad at me the first time we met.
Never. I could never.
Not in a bad way, but you know, again, I'm loud and I like to have fun, and I don't know nobody like to joke more than me. So you know, again, but you know, everybody know on the flip side of life, I'm serious about everything. So I'm super passionate. Um, I believe what I believe. I guess that's everybody though. I
But
don't
you
know.
said he called you every day and what now?
Just you know, ask me if I needed anything or if I wanted to talk, or you know what brothers do with their brothers. You know, again, I've said this before out loud. I'm um not too proud to say it again. Um, I've got I've met men that who become my brothers that I'm probably closer with than the brothers that my mother gave birth to. And, you know, I love them like brothers, like Alan, Sherman, Alfred, BK, um, Chad, Cantrell. Like I got 8 brothers that are always a phone call away. Like no matter what I need to talk about, um, no matter what I'm dealing with, no matter what I'm going through, like I can call any of those 8 people I just named, and I'm gonna be able to get in touch with at least 4 of them at any time of the day. And then here's the best and the biggest part, Sissy, they listen. So again, we talked about this on another show earlier in season 3. You should, like, people should have at least 5 people at a minimum that they can call to talk to, and you're putting yourself in a box. You're putting yourself in a box. You're putting yourself in a box.
Peekaboo.
So, um, tell me that big word again. Tell me that college word again.
Platicate.
You just did it.
I platicated you by giving you the word.
No, you placated me by not answering the question I asked you and Alan.
You didn't ask me a question.
I did. I asked you the same question I asked him.
No, he was answering the question and it went to
Right,
you.
but you put on the co-host hat again and start asking questions when you were supposed to be thinking of your
Oh,
response.
well, it just got yummy. It was yummy.
It wasn't white cake because I'd have been really smiling.
Well, I like chocolate.
Yeah. What kind of cake? What's your favorite cake, Alan? White on white. Huh?
He said he doesn't have one.
I can't hear you. Still
He
can't
must
hear
can't
you.
tell it. He don't want her to hear it. What's this got to do with grief?
Oh, I don't know. Just flow.
Okay, now go
What
ahead.
happened to Alan?
I guess he got disconnected.
Oh wow. Hey, so hey, you know we
There
don't
he
have.
is.
You know what we don't have.
What's that?
We don't have a. Hey, Alan.
Red Velvet.
Yeah, I never eaten red velvet before. I don't think.
How you from Monroe and
It's
never had Red
chocolate.
Velvet?
Red velvet is chocolate.
Okay,
But
y'all.
it's chocolate.
I just don't. Maybe I don't know. I don't remember. Like I've eaten what that stuff is everybody like. When was the first time I ate cheesecake, Anise?
Was
If
when we
anybody knows that answer, it should be you.
Oh, I think it's when we had pizza, wasn't it?
Nope.
Or was it when we were in Oh, it was at the ball.
Yep.
It was at the ball. We
So
took we took him to a Tux and Tail his first Tails ball. Formal.
Oh, okay. Got him dressed up, huh?
Oh, he looked nice too.
yeah, I'm fly like that. I'm fly like that. But so I want to do this, and since it's on three of us, I'm gonna give all us a chance to have a closing argument. But
Closing argument.
yeah, that was in reference to Alan. Just trying to, play on words. Play on
Yeah.
words.
Gotcha.
We don't have. We don't have a show topic for next week.
Put a poll out there and let your viewers choose.
Hey, but I don't know how. No, listen though. Remember last year at the end, I think it was episode 12 last year that we did it. Each panelist picked their own subject to talk about. Wasn't that what we did? What did we do? How do we
But I remember.
how we do that?
I think you tried to cover all of them again, but that's too much. Too much. Why don't you have an all boys show and an all girls show?
You gonna host the boys show and I'm gonna host the girls show? Or you host the girls show and I'm gonna host the boys show?
Oh, we can do it. I'll host the boys. I get along with the boys. But you can't talk.
No, I'm not gonna even be on.
You a boy.
Okay.
Because only two girls. How many girls?
I won't do no hosting, no introducing of the show, no none of that next week for the boys show. And the following week.
Well, all men, because I don't want to be offensive to the men.
Oh no, we know we're men. We ain't what that word is. No, we ain't small minded like that. Like I know I'm a man. I don't need nobody to define who I am. I'm comfortable and secure with who I am. And I know Alan is because I know Alan. Hey, so there you guys have it, man. Next week, it's an all boys cast of Light Off the Bench. The following week for episode 11, it's an all girls cast with me talking trash to the girls.
You're going to get ate up and served.
That should be fun. Alan, we need you here next Sunday, man.
I should be here.
Come on, have some fun. We're glad that you didn't have to go see A Prisoner tonight.
I did. I just went earlier today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But glad to have you on the show, man. What's your final thoughts? And I know you weren't here last week to catch it all. As we talked about the 5 stages of grief. But give us a little summation on your thoughts of grief.
I think it varies from person to person, and situation to situation. I know, tonight we touch heavily on death as the touch point of grief, but grief comes in different forms. You know, loss of a loved one, loss of a job, breakup of a girlfriend or spouse, um, and folks deal with it in different ways. Um, I think the one thing that we have to be conscious of as those who are in supporting roles and helping those get through grief is to be both sympathetic and empathetic to their needs. Pay attention to those 5 stages that those individuals may be in. Um, be available and willing to assist them in working through those 5 stages, um, and just be a friend to those individuals, um, and be available and accessible to those people to work through those things. And for you yourself, if you're going through those 5 stages, just be cognizant of where you are and not be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Sissy Pooh.
Grief is a natural part of loss or life, and it is something that everyone will experience. Um, there's mourning that takes place, and it's important to pay attention during the mourning stage. And it's in those stages that we find those 5 phases. And whichever one or multiple stages, and maybe all 5 at the same time, be sure to be aware, alert, and assess where you are and identify what you're feeling. And even if you don't know what you're feeling, know that you are feeling something and that something's off from your regular self and your regular way of being. And find something to be a direct or a derivative of some some help, some wellness, some sense of wellness, even if it's a listening ear, a listening person, professional assistance, if you intend to or thinking about harm to yourself or others. Um, Another pleasantry, but there's hope. And just know that there's hope. I'll stop there. Okay.
I
So
think it's you and me.
I think Brother Hobart got bumped off a little bit. I think he's coming back on.
sorry about that, you guys. You finished, huh, Sissy Pooh?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say give yourself some time to make it through the process. And take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. Afford yourself some grace. Afford yourself some grace.
It may seem like repetitiveness may be the theme here, but all words have value. All words have power. All words have meaning. If you find yourself in one of the 5 stages of grief, I'm going to recommend the power of prayer. In the process of prayer comes peace. When you find peace, you can find a sense of understanding. When you find understanding, you can find the pathway to continue on your journey. That doesn't mean to say in prayer, in power, in peace, in understanding that there won't be tears, that there still won't be pitfalls, that there still won't be mental anguish, but all those things are part of grief. As we saw here tonight, I was just talking and I didn't feel like I was finna cry, but out of nowhere, tears just started flowing. That's called breakthrough. A breakthrough can only happen when you're bold enough to be your genuine, true, authentic self. To not worry about what or how people are going to feel, think, and say about you. Again, that's a part of the process of life when you put your life on display. People are always going to criticize. People are always going to critique. People are always going to be harsher on you than they are on themselves. But it's ourselves that make decisions. And I'm going to ask you to try to look into your heart and find a tear for someone else. Find a hug for someone else. Find an attaboy for someone else. Because all those things can help save someone's life, not only today, but tomorrow. So don't let someone you love or someone you meet on the street die to life, not to death, because you weren't man enough or woman enough to be a friend.
Hey.
Next week, man. Next week is on. It's
Pop them. Pop,
it's the co-host
pop, pop,
versus the
pop,
men.
pop, pop, pop.
It's the co-host versus the men, and I'm telling you, she gonna bring that work. I know her. She's gonna be preparing.
Are you ready?
Forward to it.
She's gonna be preparing to stomp us like she's preparing for that thesis she's writing or dissertation. I'm sorry, dissertation. That's called breaking it down into syllables. If you guys don't know,
It's not what you call it, just as long as I make it through, baby.
Yay! Hey, y'all see it scrolling across the bottom of the screen? It says, "You are the light, be the light, let the light shine." You are the light, be the light, let the light shine. Lead with love. I'm missing one. Oh, to thine own self.
Be true.
And the last one you started, I'm going to take the middle. Alan, you take the end. Can't go till you start, Sissy Pooh.
Which one?
The last one, the bit. How you want me to start? You take the middle, and Alan.
Yeah.
Remember.
Oh, go ahead. Start again.
Remember.
Get off the bench.
And
Alan?
get into life.
Ooh. So
Okay.
let's say it all together.
all together. Remember,
To
get off the bench,
to get off the
get
bench,
into the
get
game.
into the game.
They get into the game.
But
Oh,
they need
I'm sorry. One more thing before I go. Again, thank you to the St. John Red Youth Football Organization for the really beautiful,
you gotta stand up and model.
really beautiful windbreaker that they gifted to me out of LaPlace, Louisiana. All youth organizations across the country need your financial support. We want to thank the president of the St. John Red Youth Organization, Raphael Neal. He's also a coach at Riverside High School in Reserve, Louisiana. So thank you guys, man, for the really beautiful jacket. I'm gonna probably wear it a lot because I like the way it looks and I like the way it feels. It's really comfortable.
That's that red and black.
Yeah.
Time for a hoodie, not time for a sweatshirt. Well, not a hoodie, but we need a sweatshirt. A life off the bench, red and black.
Was red and white? I thought purple and gold got voted.
No, red and black is next. Don't play.
I gotta get a hoodie. I can't do a sweatshirt. I ain't a sweatshirt guy.
Well, then send us sweatshirts.
So, hey, thank you guys, man, for joining us tonight, man. Again, a really great, phenomenal show. If you wasn't moved, you wasn't being honest with yourself. So, again, man, let your light shine. Lead with love. Be true to thine own self. And remember, get off the bench. Get into the game.
Hey.